The boundless expanse of space unfurled before the Galactic Concordia's observation ship. Stars twinkled like scattered jewels against the infinite void. Captain Zack Snorb, a crystalline being whose facets gleamed with intellect, hovered before a vast screen displaying the 927th edition of First Contact Protocols. Per Section 42, Subsection 11, Paragraph 9, dated March 7th, the ship's AI was bound by strict non-interference rules while observing pre-alliance civilizations, conducting thorough behavioral and technological evaluations. Yes, yes, Zack Snorb responded, their crystalline form quivering with impatience. We've followed these procedures 8,142 times without a hitch. The Concordia prides itself on flawless protocol adherence. Initiating scan of solar system quadrant, announced the sensor officer, a tentacled creature whose appendages glided over holographic controls. Suddenly, the main display flared red. Anomaly detected, the officer exclaimed, tentacles retracting in shock. Civilization with conflicting developmental traits. Zack Snorb's form pulsed with unease. Explain. They possess nuclear weapons yet rely on social media. They've achieved basic space travel while clinging to a culture of office work and streaming platforms. It's baffling. Fascinating, Zack Snorb replied. Focus scans on population centers for behavioral analysis. The screen shifted to a sprawling cityscape. Sensors zoomed past skyscrapers into an unremarkable office building and settled on a lone human in a break room. The man, roughly 30 Earth years old, stared blankly, a half-empty coffee mug before him. What's he doing? Zack Snorb asked, their structure vibrating with growing concern. The behavioral analyst, a gaseous entity encased in a floating suit, expanded uncertainly. I'm not sure. He's just sitting. A heavy silence blanketed the bridge. Impossible, Zack Snorb declared. All sentient behavior has purpose. Scan for neural activity. Activity detected but erratic, as if, the analyst faltered, he's thinking about nothing specific. Zack Snorb dimmed. Impossible. Recalibrate the instruments. Instruments optimal, the AI confirmed. Initiate emergency protocol, Zack Snorb ordered, voice resonating with alarm. This could be an advanced meditative weapon. The tentacled officer spun around. What do I tell Central Command? Zack Snorb stared at the screen as the human sipped coffee and resumed staring. Tell them we may have found the galaxy's most enigmatic species. Mark Thompson stifled a yawn, swirling his cooling coffee. 3 hours until he could escape the office. 3 hours of spreadsheets, emails, and the hum of fluorescent lights. His coworker Jenny slid into the chair across from him. You look like your brain checked out. Just thinking about nothing, Mark replied, stretching. Lucky you, Jenny chuckled. I've got that presentation for Grant tomorrow, and I haven't even started the slides. Mark took another sip. Better get back to my desk. Reports don't analyze themselves. Speaking of which, Jenny lowered her voice. Did you finish the Davidson account? Grant's asking. Mark groaned. Not yet. It's on my list. As they stood, Mark glanced out at the city skyline, oblivious to the interstellar crisis brewing 63,000 miles above, triggered by his vacant stare. The Concordia's central command buzzed with chaos. News of the observation ship's discovery raced through the Alliance's bureaucratic channels. Emergency committees formed and dissolved at dizzying speed. We have visual confirmation, Zack Snorb reported to the hastily convened High Council. A human, designated coffee entity, exhibits prolonged stillness interrupted by liquid consumption. General Krag, a reptilian whose scales shifted with his mood, flashed nervous orange. Is this battle meditation? A pre-combat trance? Unknown, said Dr. Phylan, the Alliance's top interspecies psychologist, her delicate antennae twitching with curiosity. But this behavior recurs. The subject alternates between frantic digital activity and these contemplative pauses. I estimate a 42.879% chance of benign intent. The collective, a hive mind AI represented by a glowing cube, added, this estimate has a 31.452% margin of error due to limited data. Silence gripped the chamber. So you're clueless, General Cragg growled. Correct, the collective admitted. The behavior defies logical analysis. Zack's Norb sparkled with resolve. Continue surveillance. Deploy more drones. I want constant monitoring of this coffee entity. What if they detect us? A nervous counselor asked. The coffee entity seems utterly detached, Zack Snorb replied. It's both mesmerizing and terrifying. What power enables such disconnection? Mark's Friday spiraled downward. The Davidson account remained unfinished. His inbox had exploded, and Grant, his perpetually frazzled boss, called an urgent meeting. Thompson, Grant barked as Mark entered the conference room, clutching his coffee like a lifeline. Where are we on those projections? Mark sank into a chair, taking a long sip to stall. Still compiling data. Still? Grant's eyebrows shot up. Client calls Monday. Mark nodded, staring into his mug. The room fell silent, all eyes on him. His mind went blank. What could he say? That he'd spent half the morning watching cat videos instead of working. The silence stretched. Mark sat motionless, face impassive, scrambling for an answer. In orbit, pandemonium erupted. The coffee entity has joined a gathering of subordinates, the observation officer reported. It resembles a war council. The High Council watched in horror as Mark sat silent while others waited. It's asserting dominance, Dr. Kwan gasped. They fear speaking without its permission. Look at their faces, terrified. General Cragg hissed. Probability of attack, 89.76%. By the stars, Zack Snorb whispered. It controls them mentally. Cragg's scales turned blood red. We must act before they mobilize. First contact protocol states, a bureaucrat began. The protocol doesn't cover mind-controlling coffee drinkers, Cragg roared. Zack Snorb hesitated. Perhaps diplomacy. Look, Dr. Kwan interrupted. On screen, Mark shifted and sipped coffee. The council flinched. Emergency alert to all Concordia worlds, Cragg ordered. We've encountered the galaxy's most dangerous species. Mark finally spoke. I'll have it by tomorrow. Staying late tonight. Grant nodded curtly. See that you do. The meeting droned on for 45 minutes. Mark contributed little, his thoughts drifting between deadline stress and dinner plans. As Grant dismissed the team, Mark rose slowly, his coffee cold. Jenny caught him in the hall. You okay? You looked like you were astral projecting in there. Just a rough week, Mark shrugged. Gotta finish Davidson. Want help? Thanks, I'll manage. Just need more coffee. Back at his desk, Mark felt watched. He scanned the office, typical Friday scenes, co-workers eyeing the clock, typing sluggishly or plotting weekend plans. Shaking it off, Mark focused. If he buckled down, he could salvage this week. The Concordia fleet assembled swiftly, a testament to their drilled protocols. Crystalline, organic metallic, and energy-based warships formed a defensive perimeter around the observation vessel. Status, demanded Admiral Vax, her electromagnetic form flickering with tension. The coffee entity is in an isolation chamber, interfacing with primitive tech, the surveillance team reported. Attack planning, Cragg muttered. I suggest immediate diplomatic contact, Zack Snorb urged. The council erupted in debate. No, a methane-breathing counselor shouted. Contact could trigger their assault. Vax silenced them. We'll deploy a recon probe for more intel. If it escalates, we're ready to defend. The collective flashed urgently. New development. The coffee entity shows distress. On screen, Mark rubbed his temples, staring at a spreadsheet. It's activating, Crag gasped. No, Quan countered, antennae waving. That's frustration. Its body language suggests internal struggle. Launch the probe, Vax ordered. Hours later, Mark saved the Davidson report. The office was empty, save for cleaners vacuuming indifferently. His phone buzzed, a bizarre message from an unknown sender. We come in peace. Please don't destroy us. Mark snorted. Spam was getting weirder. He deleted it and grabbed his things. Maybe pizza tonight. He'd earned it after this hellish week. In the elevator, another message. Concordia acknowledges your supremacy. We seek dialogue. Yeah, right, Mark muttered, deleting it. Probably Jenny's prank or some sci-fi movie campaign. The doors opened and Mark stepped out, unaware his dismissal had been interpreted as a war declaration by an interstellar alliance. The coffee entity rejected our peace offer, the communications officer announced, bioluminescent patches flashing alarm. This confirms hostility, General Cragg declared, slamming a scaled fist. We strike first. Dr. Kwan's antennae drooped. Our message may have been unclear or mistranslated. Zaxnorb dimmed with worry. We should try again. And risk more provocation, Admiral Vax countered. It's shown power over others and indifference to us. The collective's cube pulsed erratically. Probability calculations failing due to insufficient grasp of coffee entity psychology. Logic subroutines crashing. Counselors recoiled. Even the collective can't predict it, one whispered. What chance do we have? A gas cloud counselor spoke up. What if we apologize? Apologize, Cragg sputtered. For what? For whatever offended it, the empath replied. Its dismissal suggests it feels wronged. Vax's form stabilized thoughtfully. A gesture of humility might buy time. This defies military doctrine, Cragg objected. Yet we face an incomprehensible entity, Zaxnorb countered. Humility may be our best move. After fierce debate, the council agreed to send a clearer peace message, bordering on surrender. Mark's Saturday began with a throbbing headache. Last night's pizza and beer seemed less brilliant now. Groggy, he checked his phone. 17 messages from the unknown sender. We apologize for any offense. Concordia fleet stands down. Please accept peace offerings. We acknowledge your dominion. On and on, each more groveling. What the hell? Mark muttered. This was either an epic prank or the strangest marketing stunt ever. The last message stood out. We await your response at coordinates 40.71 Tadig 74 or 060 degree below. Today, midday. Mark frowned. That was nearby, in the city. Curiosity piqued, he replied. Who is this? What's going on? The response was instant. We are Concordia. We seek peace with Earth's supreme leader. Mark laughed. Supreme leader. Him. This had to be Jenny's doing, cheering him up after yesterday. Fine, he texted. I'll be there at noon. This better be good. Setting his phone down, Mark shuffled to make coffee. Whatever this was, he wasn't facing it without caffeine. The Concordia High Council erupted in frenzy. The coffee entity responded, the communications officer announced, patches pulsing with excitement. What does it say? Vax demanded. It agrees to meet our emissaries. Stunned silence fell. Impossible, Cragg whispered. Why would such a powerful entity parley? Perhaps it's curious, Dr. Kwan suggested. It's a trap, Cragg countered. Zaxnorb brightened. Regardless, this is our chance for diplomacy. We must send our best. I volunteer, Doctor, Kwan said, antennae quivering. As military advisor, I must go, Crag declared, scales rippling with fear and resolve. I'll lead, Zaxnorb decided. The collective will analyze from orbit. Vax's form swirled anxiously. First contact with no preparation, no cultural data, no security. No choice, Zaxnorb replied. The coffee entity summons us. At noon, Mark arrived at the coordinates, a small park by the river. He carried a large coffee, his third today, and wore sunglasses against the spring sun and his hangover. The park was oddly empty. Mark sat on a bench sipping coffee, watching pigeons fight over a hot dog bun. "Okay, Jenny," he muttered. "Where's the surprise?" 10 minutes passed. He was about to leave when a shimmer appeared in the air, expanding into a glowing portal. 3 bizarre figures emerged, a humanoid crystal sparkling in the sun, a reptilian with shifting scales, and an insectoid with waving antennae. Mark froze, coffee halfway to his lips. The crystal being spoke. "Coffee entity, supreme leader of Earth, we, the Galactic Concordia, greet you in peace and humility." Mark glanced around for cameras. This had to be a prank show. The costumes were unreal, Hollywood tier. Hi," he said, playing along. "Call me Mark." The beings exchanged looks. "Mark," the crystal repeated. "We apologize for any offense caused by our surveillance. We seek peaceful coexistence." "Surveillance?" Mark raised an eyebrow. The reptilian knelt. "Great Mark, we've seen your power to control others through stillness, your dominance via silent contemplation. We offer alliance, not resistance." Mark nearly choked. "My what?" The insectoid's antennae twitched. "Your meditative combat stance, your mind control in the War Council, your dismissal of our messages, all prove your immense power." Mark stared, then burst out laughing. The absurdity, mixed with his hangover and caffeine buzz, shattered his composure. "I don't have powers," he gasped. "I'm just a guy who hates his job and daydreams too much. When I'm still, I'm bored, stressed, or thinking about dinner." The aliens looked confused. "But your subordinates feared to speak," the reptilian protested. "That was an office meeting with my boss and co-workers. They waited because I zoned out instead of answering a question." The insectoid's antennae drooped. "So you're not Earth's supreme leader?" "God, no," Mark said, wiping tears of laughter. "I'm a mid-level analyst at a marketing firm. I barely control my lunch order." The crystal being vibrated with embarrassment. "We may have misjudged." Mark sipped coffee, oddly calm. Maybe he was dreaming. "So, you're real aliens?" "We represent the Galactic Concordia, an alliance of 2,317 sentient species," the crystal confirmed. "I'm Ambassador Zaxnorb. This is General Crag and Dr. Quan, our military and scientific advisors." Mark shook his head in awe. "And you thought I was dangerous because I drank coffee and stared into space?" Dr. Quan's antennae twitched. "Your stillness defied our analysis, suggesting profound power or unknown meditation techniques." "It's called burnout," Mark said dryly. "Common human condition. No powers, just office fatigue." General Crag's scales flushed purple. "Our entire fleet's on alert because of workplace fatigue?" "Apparently," Mark shrugged, enjoying Crag's discomfort. "So, what now? Invading Earth?" "Never," Zaxnorb said, shocked. "The Concordia is peaceful. We prepared defenses, fearing your intentions." Mark considered this. The day was already beyond surreal. "Well, my intentions are to finish this coffee, maybe grab lunch, and forget work until Monday." The aliens recalibrated their view of humanity. "Perhaps," Dr. Quan ventured, "we could join you for lunch as a cultural exchange." Mark eyed the crystal, lizard, and insect. Taking them to his deli might cause a riot. Sure, why not? But disguise yourselves better. Humans don't know about aliens yet. We have holographic tech, Zack Snorb assured. We can appear human. Perfect, Mark said, feeling alive for the first time in months. Let's get lunch, and you can tell me about this Concordia. As they left the park, General Cragg walked beside Mark. I must know, he hissed. What were you thinking during that silent meeting? Mark grinned. Honestly, if I could order pizza for the third night in a row? Cragg's scales turned yellow with confusion. That's it? That's it, Mark confirmed. Sometimes a guy staring into space is just a guy staring into space. News of the diplomatic success spread through the Concordia fleet. The coffee entity, now Mark, was no threat. No war, no cosmic clash, just lunch. The collective's cube pulsed with relief and confusion. Analysis complete. We catastrophically overthought this. Admiral Vax's form swirled with embarrassment. Stand down, all systems. Prepare a report for Central Command. The coffee incident, a study in interspecies misinterpretation. In a midtown sandwich shop, Mark sat with three disguised aliens, explaining weekends while they marveled at turkey on rye. So, Zack Snorb clarified, humans regularly zone out, and it's just mental fatigue or boredom. Pretty much, Mark nodded. We call it daydreaming or spacing out. Totally normal. Dr. Kwan's disguised antennae twitched. Fascinating. Your species normalizes inactivity for psychological rest, contradicting our assumption that sentient behavior always has purpose. Sometimes the purpose is no purpose, Mark said, surprised at his own profundity. Everyone needs a mental break. General Cragg, now a stern human in a suit, leaned in. So, the stillness we saw as power was rest? Exactly, Mark said. Humans even need 8 hours of unconsciousness daily. Sleep. The aliens gasped. 8 hours vulnerable. Cragg was horrified. How do you survive? Mark laughed. We build safe places and mostly trust each other. Mark enjoyed their company, their questions making him see human habits anew. Coffee breaks, weekends, even zoning out felt like unique phenomena worth explaining. May I ask, Zack Snorb ventured, would you consider being our informal cultural liaison? Your insights could prevent future misunderstandings. Mark paused. His job was soul-crushing, his social life non-existent. This was a chance to connect with galactic beings. What's involved? Occasional meetings like this, Zack Snorb explained. Answering questions about humans, reviewing our reports for accuracy. In return, we'd share knowledge of other worlds, within protocol limits. Mark didn't hesitate. I'm in. Krog frowned. No negotiation. Mark shrugged. My job's all spreadsheets, no aliens. This sounds better. Dr. Kwan vibrated with excitement. I have questions about coffee's ritualistic role, Mark smiled. You're not wrong. It's practically sacred to office workers. As they parted, Zack Snorb extended a holographic hand. Until next time, Mark Thompson, the Concordia thanks you. Mark shook it, feeling the crystalline texture. Thanks for not invading over a coffee break. Cragg snorted. Our report will omit details. Probably best, Mark agreed. Neither of our civilizations needs the full story out. Alone on the sidewalk, coffee in hand, Mark grinned. For the first time in years, he looked forward to Monday. He'd sit in the break room, stare into space, and know the Concordia watched, not in fear, but understanding. If Jenny asked what he was thinking, some stories were best kept secret. 6 months later, the Concordia's Grand Archive added a training module to its first contact protocols. The coffee entity paradigm, understanding non-action in sentient species, featuring footage of humans zoning out with Dr. Kwan's psychological analysis and Mark Thompson's cultural context, it stressed a simple lesson. Sometimes a being sitting still is just a being sitting still. Mark's life shifted subtly but deeply. He kept his job, drank too much coffee, and zoned out in meetings. But now, in those quiet moments, he drafted reports for the Concordia, explaining human nuances to a galactic audience. His once crippling habit of spacing out had saved Earth from misunderstanding and became his greatest diplomatic asset. When new Concordia delegates doubted the coffee entity incident stemmed from such a trivial error, Mark would sip his coffee, stare into the distance, and watch them squirm. Some jokes crossed species lines. Even General Craig, initially mortified, found humor in it. During a dull council meeting, caught zoning out human style, he raised a coffee-like drink and deadpanned, "I was contemplating domination techniques," sparking interspecies laughter. The universe, Mark learned, was vast, strange, and often terrifying. But it was also filled with beings who, despite alien forms, shared a universal trait: overthinking the simplest things. Sometimes that was enough to build a friendship.